meetings and
Morning. Welcome to Metroplan Orlando TSMO meeting. I will call the meeting to order. My name is Shad Smith and I'll be chairing the meeting today. This meeting is an in-person meeting. It is important for all TSMO members to attend meetings in person. So all committee members are asked to be present in the Metroplan Orlando boardroom for us to have a quorum. Members of the public will still be able to participate virtually and we encourage them to do so. There are two public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public who want to speak need to fill out a comment card and give it to Lisa Smith. Those attending on Zoom who want to speak can use the raise hand feature on the Zoom screen. We also accept comments by email before the meeting. We also, in addition, accept comments by email, which I just said, and phone messages before the meeting. From my standpoint, this is my first meeting as official chair since I missed last month. I want to thank Brian Sanders for stepping into for me. And at this time, I will give it over to Eric Hill for his agenda review.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, committee members. I want to report some good news, two items, good news. The first is that our application to the federal government for the Safe Streets and Roads for All application was awarded approximately $3.8 million. And for members that are not on the TAC, if you hang around for the TAC meeting, Taylor Laurent will give a presentation on the award. She will be leading this effort. Also, a member of our staff, Sarah Lawson, and her husband welcomed a new baby boy, James, right here.
Oh.
So we are expanding our family here at Metroplan Orlando. Also, we have a new representative from the city of St. Cloud, Noel Barkisi is a new member representing the city of St. Cloud. And also, you may recall last month, we had a presentation on competition on the annual report challenge. And I mentioned that TSMO was probably going to win. Unfortunately, we did not win. It's okay. There's another year. That's what I say about my Eagles. They didn't win this year, but there's next year. The Community Advisory Committee won the challenge. Also, many of you probably are aware of all the federal grants that are being made available. And Orange County is interested in pursuing perhaps a SMART grant and has some discussions with the University of Central Florida. And perhaps it would be useful for us, representatives of this committee, to convene at some point to talk about an opportunity for submitting grant application. So that's just for your consideration. I will follow up with some correspondence on perhaps getting together after we have some more discussions with Orange County. Well, Mr. Chairman, that wraps up all of my announcements. I'll now turn it over to Ms. Lisa Smith to take roll call.
Good morning. Atkins. Barden.
Here.
Bates. Carson.
Here.
Doig.
Good morning here.
Edie. El Hassar,
Present.
Elliot Moore, Barkessa, Braille, DeFreeze for Giovinazzo,
Present.
Herschelman. Cool for Homiani,
Here.
Hudson, Jameson,
Present.
Dredge, Kane, Crew, Lim,
Here.
Margraf, Pulliam, Richmond, Sanders,
Here.
Sonorens, Smith,
Present.
Toussaint,
Here.
Wetzel.
Here.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Lisa. We will now hear public comments on the action items. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand feature and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
There are no hands raised on the virtual side, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kathy. Do we have any members of the public attending in person that wish to make a public comment?
I have not received any requests.
Thank you, Lisa. There are any written comments? Eric?
No written comments, Mr. Chairman.
So moving on to action items, we have 2 action items today. Members making or seconding a motion, please state your name. First action item is the approval of the January 27th TSMO meeting minutes, which are in tab 1 of your agenda packets.
Second, Jamison.
Elzar and Jameson, okay. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Excellent. This is a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? No. Thank you. That motion passes. The second item is the FDOT amendment to the fiscal year 2023 to 2026 TIP. And it is found in tab 2 of your agendas. Mr. Jason Sartorio, is that right? For Metro Plan Orlando, we're presenting information. Please hold your questions on this item until the presentation finish. Please proceed. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Jason Sartorio, Transportation Planner with Metro Plan Orlando. This morning, I have 1 tip amendment for you. Additional information regarding this amendment is located in tab 2 of your agendas. This morning's amendment is due to construction cost estimate increases for the Fortune Road at Simpson Road intersection improvement project in Osceola County. As I mentioned earlier, additional information is located in tab 2 of your agenda packets. With that being said, unless there are any additional questions, we recommend a motion of approval of the amendment. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions or? Please, Brian.
Yeah, am I right in seeing that it was 4.88 million originally and now it's 16.5?
You are correct.
Wow. 2.5 times, that's quite a bit. All right, just wanted to clarify.
And I believe a good bit of that is local funding too. Did the local funding increased? Or was that
Correct.
the same
That,
amount that was in there originally?
6.3 million in local funds new, and then 5.3 in SU funds.
We used to pay grade separated interchange.
Oh, yeah. The whole
Wow.
projects, big
Wow.
projects. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
And that's just an intersection improvement, basically.
Yes, it's intersection approval, and then they're also doing drainage, mast arm, and concrete and everything.
And I can add a little comment to that. So I'm with Osceola County. It's a pretty major intersection. It's adjacent to another segments of road that we're widening as well. So we're, in addition to the safety improvements, we're also making capacity improvements, which are funded separately. So it's a rather large project, and it's on both approaches to the intersection, both legs. And so it's pretty substantial drainage improvements, utility relocations and the like. And every time we turn around, of course, everybody's experiencing this. Unit prices are just soaring right now. So we appreciate MetroPlan working with us to get this funded.
Great. Do we have a motion for this item?
Motion to approve, Kane.
Motion, okay. Second,
Second, DeVries.
thank you. We already talked about discussion. I don't think there's any more. So we have a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. On the traffic signal refining program.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. While I have a mic, I forgot to do a sound check with our second presenter. Joe, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ken. Just want to do a sound check. Thank you.
All right, great.
Okay. So everyone, I think from this committee is familiar with our annual retiming program. So this is a presentation on 2022. Why we do this? To improve traffic flow, reduce any delay, reduce speeding, and improve safety for our other modes. This year's retiming included 17 corridors and 7 independent intersections. This year we had retiming done in Orange County and in Seminole County. We didn't have any done in Osceola County. So that's what's missing from this year's program. These are the corridors and intersections that we retimed in Orange County. The ones that we did in Seminole County. Brief history here on this whole program. It started out, and I don't think anyone in here is old enough to remember floating cars. But we started out the program using floating car technology with stopwatches to track the travel time. I'm old enough to remember this. And so we have tried to keep up with the changes in technology. We migrated to using Bluetooth technology, testing it, and then using it. And now we've tested the use of connected vehicle technology because cars are smarter now. We can use them as probes. And so we've tested it and we're using some of that now as well. We did go through the process of checking it with existing data collection measures, and it seems reliable. There's still a question on sample size, but we're still migrating towards that use of technology. These are the measures that we use when we want to assess this, but what we typically report on is the benefit cost ratio, and I'll get to that. But these are things that we're trying to achieve, some of the points we're trying to achieve when we do the retiming. So what are the results for this past year? We did see shorter travel times on over half of the corridors. We did see reliable travel times on most of them. We have increase in emissions as well as fuel consumption, and there's a reason for that. 35% of the corridors had fewer stops, and we had 29% of individual intersections had less delay. And then we did look at pedestrian activity, and 15% of the intersections, less pedestrian delay during the peak period. And some of that is something that we want to achieve. We want to make our roadways a little bit more comfortable for pedestrians and bicycles. So the benefit cost summary, $350,000 increase. The cost this past year was $1 million, and it's usually roughly around 1.5, but since we didn't do any retiming in Osceola County, we didn't spend as much. Present value, it's 5.9 million. And this year was the first year we did not have a positive BC ratio. And I don't know how many recall that when we started this program, I did note that we would not always have a positive BC ratio. And it would not always be as good as it had been. And this is what I'm speaking to. Things change, and we're trying to respond to those changes. Now, perhaps it would have been a little bit higher if we did more corridors, depending on how they responded. But this is what happens when, Sunrail started, a lot of the trips went from north-south to east-west because they were accessing the stations. The pandemic certainly had an impact on all this as well. So Florida corridors had increases greater than 30 seconds. And part of that is because these were corridors that had schools on them. And these are the corridors showing the schools. And I think it's kind of hard to argue if there's an increase in travel time. Your trip is going to be a little longer because there are students trying to access the schools. I mean, that's kind of hard to argue with. But that's one of the causes for the increase or the decrease in our BC ratio. The pandemic, when we collected the before data, it was at the tail end of the pandemic. And as many of you probably are aware, traffic came back with a vengeance. And so when we did the after, that vengeance took its toll on us, so to speak. So that contributed to it. I already spoke about the school zones. And then we increased the pedestrian times at certain intersections. So that increased the trips. Most corridors saw a decrease in citizen complaints, which is a good thing. And so it's a balancing act. And how do we make sure that all of these data points are improved? It's a challenge, but we've been doing a very good job. Again, the data on the BC ratio that showed that we have always had a positive impact on it, but things change. And I'm certainly confident that the program will continue to have positive benefits. This is the 1 year where we didn't show that benefit. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. And I am ready to address any questions and comments.
So does anyone have any questions or comments?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So if we picked different corridors, do you think there could have been a different ratio or having less schools on there? Or could it also be that the increase in population of just Florida with everyone coming down here, was that tied into those equations or that analysis?
Sure, if we had chosen different corridors, we may have had different results. It's not just the increase in the state's population, but again, everyone returning back to work, or a lot of folks left their current jobs for better paying jobs. That was the thing that was happening. But yeah, all that factors in. And we try to respond to the demand and the changes in trip making. But again, I'd like to say it's perfect, but sometimes we miss.
See if I can phrase this right. So, obviously there was no Osceola County road submitted last year, and I think we can work to get some for this year. I know there's been some correspondence.
You have some.
Yeah, and so we just want to make sure that we're participating and that we can help make sure that the BC ratio is appropriate. I guess my question is, we've got several major roadway projects pending, and we also have a lot of real-time adjustments that are going on our end. So do you see, with the data that you had from last year, that there was signal timings that were being made after the adjustments were done by the signal retiming project, where the locals came back out and retimed differently, and that in any way impacted?
Not sure. I have to.
Okay.
Go back and look at that.
Yeah, I'm just I guess I'm trying to avoid walking over our progress, you know,
right.
in one process, we're trying to improve signal timings and then we get a citizen complaint and we may go out and make an adjustment and then it counteracts the BC here. So again, with contractors making adjustments on our corridors because of the construction projects, we're reluctant to maybe put some of those corridors forward, but we also want to contribute to the process. And so just didn't know if maybe there was a risk or a benefit there that I'm not recognizing.
Let me go back and ask some of the vendors, because I know that happens. But let me ask them how much of that played into this year's retirement. Yeah.
Is there anyone else who has a question or comment other than me? I had a question on the BC ratio. How are we showing anything in the benefit cost on the pedestrian safety and the school zones? I mean, is there anything that is representative to show that there's a cost? I mean, there's a cost to keeping those people safe, and I don't know how we were putting that in there, because I mean, if you've made safety improvements, you know, you're improving the school zones. I don't know how it's tangible, but that's kind of where I was wondering if there was any way to look at that, if there's some more methodologies versus the older standard methodologies, which is usually, you know, pollution and delay and cars running and stuff like that. So I'm just curious.
So yeah, it did play in to that negative BC ratio.
Well, I know, but I wondered on the cost or the benefit side, how can you make, you know, that bigger, you know, because if we did those improvements, but it doesn't show up in the benefit, then it makes your ratio negative.
For the pedestrians, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. If you look at there's an infographic in the agenda. We did look at that and we did show some improvements in terms of reducing the delay for pedestrians. So that is a benefit.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the benefit cost of that, we don't go that far.
Yeah.
So that's
It's not a cost. We're not putting a cost to that benefit. So versus the benefit cost is very car heavy. And that's the challenge, because then it looks bad, but we've actually done a lot of benefit, but the car part just is what you see, because that's where the cost shows up.
Yeah, and you can make a great point, because what we do, especially in the technology realm, is targeted or focused on moving vehicles. And how can we do more with this for pedestrians, for the other modes, not only just pedestrian bicycles, but for the other modes. And as we move forward in this program, we can put more emphasis on doing more evaluation of how it's benefiting pedestrians in bicycles and perhaps even the transit portion.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question too. I mean, did doing this help transit, even though it doesn't really show up in the car part? So just curious, you know, as we go forward, the benefit might look low, but or the BC might look low, but in essence, we're actually still doing a lot of good. And I don't want it to show that, oh, this is no good. I mean, we all know retiming these corridors is beneficial, and it really helps, but I hate for our BC to show up that negative, because then we could get criticism and that we're not doing anything and so forth. So,
well, Mr. Chairman, you know, my perspective is a bad rating or BC ratio or negative BC ratio, I should say. To me, it's not a bad thing. It's just showing how we're doing and areas that we need to make improvements.
right. Excellent. No other questions? Thank you, Mr. Ham. Oh, do you have one? Oh, okay.
How do we have that look, right?
I keep on waiting for him to make a comment, but so thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we're moving into a presentation on from the FHWA Office of Operations, Mr. Joseph Gregory, and he is, I believe, online. So
I am, yes.
there he is. Excellent. You may proceed, Joe. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity just to come speak to you all today. We always enjoy having these opportunities just to share what we've been doing in the realm of TSMO, and also maybe getting some feedback in terms of where you see opportunities for us to help down the road. I'm going to give you a presentation that my team leader, Tracy Scriba, made at TRB this year in January up in Washington, DC. And it's an overview of some of the products we've recently released and some that are coming up within the next few months. And there's a lot of material on there, and I think you all have a copy of the presentation, so I'm not going to go through each one in a lot of detail just for the sake of time. So I may skim through a couple and then maybe hone in on other items as well. And I'll go ahead and begin. So I believe you all can advance the slides. Is that right? Yes. Okay. So this is a disclaimer we have to put on all our presentations, saying that we're not endorsing, a particular product or manufacturer, and may not necessarily reflect official policy within FHWA and US DOT. Next slide. So this right here, and again, I'll highlight a few of them. These are ones that have just been released within the past couple of months. And a couple of themes that you may pick up on is a lot of our products tends to focus on more outreach in terms of the value of TSMO and integrating within your agency. Some terms for the practitioner in terms of strategies that may be available within the umbrella of TSMO. And then another is opportunities to integrate TSMO into other disciplines such as planning, design, environment, maintenance, construction. As well, since TSMO itself is so interdisciplinary, there's opportunities for collaboration in those areas. So just to highlight a few, we'll get to there's an infographic, we'll get into the next slide, but we saw opportunities to look into the PM3 measures in terms of approaches to target setting. We've also saw opportunities within the asset management realm. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but we released 2 primers on applying asset management to traffic signals, and then one for ITS. And there's some webinar recordings that we followed up on that are also on our webpage. Also with IT, connecting TSMO and our IT department and the opportunities that may come from there. And then we also have a resource for local agencies that we create a whole new webpage for that may be of interest to this group. If you look down the bottom, again, with the theme of connecting with other disciplines, we are developing a series of 10 PowerPoints files that we're going to upload on our website that anyone can download and modify to their, for their own purposes as they're giving presentations to either folks within their agency or other stakeholders. We found that to be a big need because a couple of years ago, we came out with a 2-page fact sheet for each of these disciplines. And our feedback was, okay, can you give us something more in depth? So this precipitated the idea of just giving a good starting point, a good base PowerPoint file for the end user to start with. So it's primarily geared toward state DOT TSMO practitioners, but again, it can be modified for anyone if they want to give a presentation to either their senior leadership or their counterparts. So we have 3 online right now, construction, environment, and maintenance, and there should be 7 more that should be online by the end of this month. So just be on the lookout for that. One other thing, and this just came out within the past couple of weeks since we developed these slides, is there's another PowerPoint to be downloaded, that's called TSMO Harnessing the Value of Transportation System Performance. So this is aimed to provide state level examples of measurable benefits of TSMO strategies. So if I can put the link to that in the chat box when I get done here. Next slide. So this is one of the infographics that was on the previous slide. I was highlighted here. So this is the idea of mainstreaming TSMO, opportunities to integrate and mainstream into other disciplines within your agency. And this is aimed to be very, very high level, more for the executive as well, just have a glance at it and maybe as a starting point to some of the other material I was talking about. Next slide. So these are products that we're expecting to be online in the next couple of months. A lot of these are going through our final review process right now. So again, building off that infographic, we have some white papers, some case studies that are being finalized right now within mainstreaming TSMO. We're working on a strategy toolkit, which is basically, I want to say like 50 TSMO strategies and some fact sheets that go along with each one of them in terms of highlighting the advantages, some of the challenges, some of the institutional requirements of applying these, some benefit cost material as well. We are about to come out with one on applying organizational theory and analysis for agencies to advance in their TSMO program. So we reached out to a lot of state DOTs, a lot of local agencies and NPOs to just gather out how they're organized and then how they're, what are some common themes that have been successful in advancing TSMO. We also saw an opportunity with connecting TSMO and transportation equity. That's really been a big topic as of late, obviously, and some of our efforts really hone in on where the connections between the two and where can they be mutually beneficial, where there's some opportunities for collaboration, and then also particularly toward the TSMO practitioner, what are some equity related considerations they want to keep in mind as they're implementing certain strategies. So one example may be work zone detours, where if they're going into perhaps underserved community, if there's some adverse negative disproportionate impacts that may go along with that. So that's one of the things that we're looking at as well. Another one, next bullet down, is what we call integrating emerging trends and technologies to advance TSMO programs. So the idea here is to, we just started this, so we're developing a framework for state and local agencies to capture any trend or technology that's coming in their area, whether it be anything related to shared mobility, big data, automation, and how can they leverage that to advance in their overall TSMO program. So where we're at right now is we're holding a series of virtual peer exchanges with certain champions in this area, just to really pick their brain and just see where they're at, what have they been doing in this area and where they see the value to advance TSMO. And it's also a good opportunity just to let the peers hear each other. I know Eric was on one earlier this week. It's been provide a lot of good input as well. The last one is we're developing through our NHI, the National Highway Institute, is web-based training, one on TSMO 101, which is just basically what it sounds like. It's just very basic understanding of TSMO, and it's actually geared more toward those who have little to no background in this. So it may be someone who's brand new into their TSMO position, and maybe someone who may have heard of TSMO and maybe in other departments or senior leadership and just want to understand what it's all about. We also have one on applying the capability maturity model. So to equip a TSMO practitioner to conduct their own self-assessment. One more that's not on here is one on operations benefit cost analysis. So we have those three that are going through development right now, and our hope is that it will be done by the end of this year and up online for anyone to use. All right, next slide. I know I'm going through a lot here, but I'm just trying to go through for the sake of time. Again, with the theme of connecting with other programs, we've seen safety as another opportunity, and there's lots of materials. Jim Hunt in our office has been leading this effort in terms of looking at the connections between TSMO and safety and the opportunities, and even some of the challenges they may be in terms of this collaboration. Planning for TSMO, we've been doing this for a long time, but one of the things we're doing is updating our desk reference guide that we came out with, I believe, 10 years ago, and also developing some new online training. Complete streets, that's another big topic, but there's we're developing a primer on the connection between TSMO and Complete Streets and the opportunities that may come from that collaboration. Next slide. So we talked about asset management a little bit, but the idea here is the activities we're pursuing is looking to apply asset management to the TSMO realm in terms of looking to maintain what the technology that's already deployed, but also apply TSMO to the asset management discipline in terms of looking beyond pavements and bridges. So we're hoping to really strengthen that collaboration there. So we have one on connecting TSMO and asset management. That's going to be one of the PowerPoint slides I mentioned earlier. We're looking at TMS, transportation management systems, and the asset management and the inventory that goes with that. And then also looking at how the state of good repair for pavements and bridges can impact system performance in terms of safety, mobility, and reliability. And this is geared more toward the TAMs that the state DOTs are required to develop. Next slide. Rural areas have been a focus as of late for TSMO because a lot of the feedback that we've heard is that from the TSMO champions is that they've had some resistance from their senior leadership, and that TSMO is only seems to be applicable in urban areas and congested areas. And there's a lot of stuff that we're doing here is aimed to just raise awareness in terms of there are opportunities in rural areas where TSMO can be beneficial. So we came out with a primer and even some webinars on applying TSMO to rural areas in terms of what does road weather management may look like, incident management, work zones, seasonal demands as well. And then our TIM group is really honing in on the incident management portion in terms of, okay, where there's opportunities to improve the capabilities of first responders in these rural areas. All right, next slide. Here, just more into the performance measures elements, which is we identify as a key capability for agencies as well. So again, there's influence of operational on PM3 strategies, and then also communicating those metrics as well to create meaningful outcomes. All right, next slide. We have a ATDM group in our office that is really honing in on advancing this particular set of TSMO strategies, and they even have a cohort program that James Collier in our office is leading. So they get together regularly just to share best practices and opportunities to advance in this area. So you see some products that are online, but also that are underway as well. All right, next slide. This is, yeah, as part of the demand management era, especially with the rise of new types of mobility, like shared mobility and technologies, there is opportunities to really leverage that trend to advance in the realm of transportation demand management. So, some projects deal with cruising detection, shared mobility options, incentives, in the realm of transportation economics and traveler behavior, and just really trying to hone in on that area to advance in TSMO. All right, next slide. Yeah, IMRCP. Yeah, so our road weather group is working on this here, and it's basically leveraging advances in machine learning to help predict travel behavior during adverse weather events. So they've done this in a few phases, and right now they're looking at phase 4 or 5. So we're hoping to wrap that up by the end of this year. All right, next. Yeah, that's more information on the IMRCP with Ohio and Louisiana as their test beds. All right, next. So Yeah, Connected Work Zone Research. This is our FHWA office, working with TxDOT, Texas DOT, along their I-35 corridor, which is a big freight corridor, in terms of leveraging advances in work zone technology, particularly in utilizing connected vehicles, third-party data, and just as a zone test bed, just to see that how this works and how we can advance in the work zone management realm. All right, next. I believe this might be the last slide, actually. But this may be of interest to this group. One of the things we are working on with the USDOT, the ITS Joint Program Office, is cybersecurity research. So we've seen in recent years a big need to help advance the capabilities of state and local agencies when it comes to cybersecurity, particularly in their what we call OT side, with their TMC, with their edge devices, with ITS and signals, and just see where are the opportunities there, where are the points of collaboration outside of their own organization that they need to keep in mind when it comes to discovering certain vulnerabilities or even responding to an incident. So this has some research. This website has some research as it relates to that in terms of communication flow for vulnerability disclosures and incident reporting and work source development. It has a glossary of terms that we put on there through resources like NIST. And this is just recognizing that, you know, the IT folks and the OT folks may speak on different wavelengths, and that creates a source of conflict. So the idea is just to look for opportunities for collaboration there. All right, next slide. Oh, that's it. Okay, so I know I threw a lot at you, but again, I think you have a copy of these slides. So any questions you have, just feel free to let me know. And I don't know if you're taking questions now or not, Eric, but I'm happy to answer any.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gregory, we are taking questions now.
Okay.
So if anybody has any questions, please, make a motion or move your hand or something.
Yeah, and also as a plug, then, you know, if you have any feedback for us to say, you know, where do you see opportunities for FHWA to help you in this area, then I'm always happy to capture that as well and take that back.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions today. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr.
No, thank
Gregory.
you.
And that will conclude today's presentations. We do have common presentations today during the TAC meeting. They are the presentation on Safe Streets for All update that Taylor is doing, and the presentation on a bike pedestrian count program, the MPO planning process, the I-4 Beyond the Ultimate project update, which I think I saw that during the board meeting. It was very good. So definitely stick around for that. And then if you want, you can hear Eric present again on the traffic signal timing. So you really know that well. So also there's a number of items under the general tab, project information and so forth. And upcoming meetings of interest is in your packet also. I will make note that the next TSMO meeting that is on our list is April 28th. So everybody has that down. And then the next Metro Plan Orlando board meeting is March 8th for those that are interested. And at this time, we can see if there's any member comments. Anybody has anything to say or anything they want to bring up? This is a time to do that. Do you have anything? No? Okay. Also, this is our second public comment. If any members of the public wish to comment, please use the raise hand function and you'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad and we'll unmute your mic. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 2 minutes. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
There are no hands raised on the virtual side, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kathy. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to make a comment?
I have not received any requests.
Excellent. So, and I assume we don't have any written comments. So unless there is anything else from anyone at this time, We are adjourned. Thank you.